is center-based services where we do consultations and assessments, provide counseling therapy, remedial education, as well as NIOS. Then there are school-based services, which also includes assessment at school, school counseling program, the remedial education program at school, and career guidance program. The third is training and workshops, which is online training programs for teachers, parents, counselors, special ed needs training for teachers, and customized workshop for schools, for teachers as well as parents, and some other specialized programs such as EIEP, which is provided to the schools and individuals, and English language development program for NGOs. Right. Currently, we have these courses on certificate courses on Prabhav, which is for counseling skills, crisis intervention and trauma management, inclusion and inclusive practices, teaching diverse and inclusive skills. You can find on Prabhav website, which will be, can be found through Drishti website as well, and which can be posted in the chat box later on. All right. So we have our guest today for today's webinar, Ms. Devika Khanna. Welcome, Ms. Devika.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Devika. So to introduce her, Ms. Devika is a mental health professional, counseling psychologist, educator, trainee, a TA, speaker, and a writer. She helps people achieve their personal growth using therapy and coaching. She has been working for employee wellness, wellness coaching, and personal growth and development for quite some time now. And today she's here to help us understand how can we manage our mental health at workplace. I think due to pandemic, due to work from home, a lot of things has become difficult for us to manage. Okay, we are not able to understand whether how do we maintain the work-life balance and everything. And that's why we have Ms. Devika Khanna here to help us and guide us through that as to how can we take care of ourselves as well as our career, and have a healthy work-life balance. So, Ms. Devika Khanna, again, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, I'm a counseling psychologist and I've been working in this domain for past 2.5, 3 years now. And one of the areas that I'm very passionate about is workplace mental health and employee wellness. These are some of the areas that I'm very passionate about. And as a result of it, I am pursuing transactional analysis, which is a school of psychology, and I'm specializing in organizations. So when I was approached to talk, workplace and mental health is a huge topic. So just to narrow it down for all of you, I took up something from a school of positive psychology. It's called resilience. So we'll be talking about resilience at workplace. How I've structured the webinar is that we'll be spending 35 minutes on covering the presentation, going through different slides, talking about it, brainstorming here and there. And after that, we'll have a quick Q&A session in whatever time that we're left with. I'll try to do some relaxation techniques also if time permits. In case that doesn't happen, I'll send you YouTube links and stuff for the same. So I'll quickly share my screen and I think we're good to go. Also, I'll switch off my video during the presentation because I face bandwidth issues in my office. So I'll just quickly switch off the video, share my presentation. Till then, if you guys have any questions regarding credentials or anything, feel free to ask. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Great. All right. So, resilience at workplace. Before I move to the next slide, can anybody throw some light on what is the first image that comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? So for me, it is jumping on a trampoline. That is the first image that comes to my mind. What about you? Anybody, there are no right and wrong answers. What is the first image that comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience? Anybody? I'll give you another example. So when I was conducting this workshop at another organization, One of the person there said that resilience is basically Mumbaikars after monsoon. That is the image that came to his mind. Mumbai in monsoon. Anybody, what is the image that comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience?
We have a response in the chat box: punching a punching bag.
Yes, punching bag. You can put your responses in the chat and somebody can just read them out because I cannot read comments right now.
I'll be doing that.
Shall I try, ma'am?
Yeah, go on. Just unmute and speak.
I'm Suman Luthra from AIMS, Delhi. I'm working as senior nursing officer. I understand resilience as ability to bounce back.
Yes, ability to bounce back. That is how a lot of people define resilience. Anybody else who would like to add something before I move to the next slide?
I'm sorry, I just have joined right now.
Okay, so what comes to your mind when you hear the word resilience?
So to start up in a very big bang back or come back with a bang or something like that.
Coming back with a bang. Back with a bang. Yes. What else? I mean, one last answer. And rest of you can put it in the chat.
We also have in the chat sustaining, surviving, virar fast, and to start new as responses.
All right, that's a great response.
So one more thing I would like to add. It is control, emotional control, and commitment. All these things are resilience, as I think.
Yes. They are part of resilience.
Yes.
So to define, so we define resilience as the ability. I define it as ability to bounce forward. So there's a crisis situation, we deal with that crisis and we move forward, we bounce forward instead of bouncing back. And at the same time, we're learning new skills. We're learning new things about ourselves. We're learning new skills to cope with crisis, to cope with problems at home, problems at work and at home. Another aspect of resilience is that it uses strengths or the inner strengths that we have or strengths that we built over the years. And we use those strengths to navigate through tough situations and to adapt to situations. So this is another aspect of resilience. So the third point which you read is the property of resisting stress and shock and maintaining form. This was a definition that was given by an engineer a few.
Can everybody please mute themselves?
Thank you. So by maintaining form, I mean that you do not experience a lot of breakdowns, or there is no change in your outlook towards life, or outlook towards work, or outlook towards relationships. So there will be improvement, there will be growth, but there is no drastic negative change. Another very important aspect of resilience is it is the capacity to absorb stress. You are able to stay calm during a stressful situation. You are able to face a stressful situation without breaking down. So this is how we define resilience. The definition, the formal definition is also given on the screen. So it's your capacity to handle difficult situations. It's your capacity to handle adverse situation demands in high pressure without experiencing a lot of stress. So yes, there will be stress. But the impact of that stress will be relatively less, and you won't be wasting your time or energy on dealing with those stressors. Instead, when a stressful situation comes in, and if you are a resilient person, your focus will be, your energy and time will be spent on dealing with the task at hand to move on from that situation instead of breaking down under the stress. So, resilience, to summarize, is performing well under pressure. This is how we define resilience. The first image, like we spoke, all of us have different images that come to our mind when we talk about resilience. In my case, it's jumping from trampoline and moving forward with new skills, new strengths, new self-awareness, with more self-awareness. Why do we need to talk about resilience? Why do you think resilience is important? So I'll talk about few points and then we can brainstorm on what do you think, why it is important. One of the most important reasons why we need to build skills of resilience is that it helps us deal with psychological problems and mental health issues. So whenever there's a stressful situation, a lot of people experience mental health issues. And if not dealt with in the correct way, it can result in them experiencing severe mental health problems or even mental illnesses. So if you have skills of resilience, you will be able to deal with the situation in a much better way without compromising your mental health. Resilience also prevents people from developing psychosomatic symptoms. What do I mean by psychosomatic symptoms is that there is a physical symptom. You might be experiencing pain, you might be experiencing nausea, you might be experiencing a stomach ache, and so on, because of a mental health problem, because of stress, because of tension, because of anxiety, because of symptoms of depression. So, resilience prevents you from experiencing psychosomatic symptoms. A lot of doesn't that happen with you, that there's a lot of stress in your life and you don't know what to do in that situation, and as a result of it, you might feel nauseous or you start experiencing pain in your body. So for example, in my situation, when I am under a lot of stress and I don't know what to do about it, I experience a sense of numbness in my right palms. And I've been to doctors and they're like, you need to lower your stressors, you need to deal with your stressors. So a lot of people experience a lot of binge eating problems, which is also resulting from their inability to deal with stress. A lot of people experience change in sleep, change in appetite, which is also a result of stressors. So when you are resilient, when you are able to deal with stressors in a much more efficient way, you will not experience psychosomatic problems. You may not experience psychosomatic problems, and physical symptoms for that matter. Apart from prevention, resilience also helps people thrive. If you, it helps you grow mentally, it helps you grow emotionally, it helps you grow socially, it helps you grow in your interpersonal relationship with people. So you, and when you work on building skills of resilience, you learn more and more things about yourself. You learn great deal of information about yourself. From a scientific research paper that I was recently reading, higher resilience is related to lower rate of mortality and increased physical health. So if you are resilient, it lowers your rate of mortality and it improves your well-being. It improves your physical as well as mental well-being. At the work front, resilience is important because it results in the workforce becoming more productive. Resilience helps people deal with stresses at work in a much more efficient way, which one increases productivity, which increases job satisfaction, which increases which lowers absenteeism, and the employee retainment rate is also very high. So resilience results in the workforce experiencing a sense of well-being, and that results in productivity, satisfaction, job satisfaction, and a happier workforce. So these are some of the reasons that why resilience is important. What do you think? What else do you think we can add to this list? We'll spend 2 minutes quickly brainstorming what else we can add to this list. Anything. There are no right and wrong answers. Think about how your life would be when there wouldn't be any kind of stressor. That will give you the answer why resilience is important. Or when you're able to deal with stressors in a much more efficient way. Just think about it and you'll get your answers.
Shall I try now?
Yeah, anybody, just unmute and speak.
When resilience, once resilience is there in anyone, as professional, I can look at attitude and behaviors as well as skill. All these things are going to improve if we are competent enough to understand about resilience.
Right. So when you're building, so resilience is both an innate skill and it can also be learned. So and over as we progress in our life, we learn new skills, new and new coping mechanisms, which may or may not be healthy or which may be unhealthy. That's a separate thing. But we learn great deal of things about the world, about ourselves, when we start focusing on building resilience. So yes, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about different behaviors, different skills that can help foster, that can help you thrive. Anybody else? Will take one more point.
We also have the response in the chat box as professional and personal well-being and growth. and
Yes.
another is work effectively.
Yes, so whenever think about your workplace. So you're sitting in the office, you're stressed about something. Are you able to concentrate on your work, or does your entire day goes for a toss if you do not deal with that stressor? Doesn't that happen with you that something's bothering you and it impacts your entire work? You're not able to calm down, you're not able to distract yourself, and you're just constantly thinking about a certain issue, you're constantly worrying about it, and your entire day goes for a toss. Doesn't that happen with a lot of you? It happens with me very frequently. I mean, or what about when you're extremely burned out? When the work is too much, the deadlines are too much, too difficult to handle, and you experience a lot of burnout. And as a result of that burnout, you are no longer able to work, or you're no longer able to concentrate on any kind of task, which lowers your productivity, which lowers your efficiency. So, had you learned resilience, had you learned calming strategies, had you learned ways to restructure your thinking pattern, you would have become more resilient, and as a result, you would have become more efficient at dealing with stressors, at dealing with burnout. So, it makes you more efficient on both personal as well as professional front. Resilience is also very important in interpersonal relationships because whenever there's a stress, we often tend to share the burden with people who we have certain relationships with, be it a family member, be it a partner, be it a friend. We often tend to share that burden of relationship, and at times, what happens is that go, we do not respect the boundaries, and we go beyond the boundaries, impacting the other person too. So when you're resilient, you'll be able to maintain certain boundaries within relationships, and you'll be able to foster healthy relationships. So that is why resilience is important. That is why everybody should learn how to build resilience. So some of the skills we already know. It's just that we are not aware of, or we do not work a lot in polishing those skills. And we just need to add a few more skills from here and there in our list, in our to-do list. Our toolkit, sorry. I call it building your resilience toolkit. So this is why resilience is important. Characteristics of resilient people. One of the most important characteristic, like I spoke about in the previous slide, is that people who are resilient, they maintain personal boundaries at work, in life, in relationships. They know the difference between me and them, and they know where to draw boundaries, how to respect the other person's space, and how to respect my space. At the same time, they're able to communicate these boundaries very clearly in a certain manner to the other party. So when there's a boundary, there are two parties involved. The resilient person will be able to communicate it very well to the other person. They're able to empathize with the other people, the person. They're respecting their needs. At the same time, they're very vocal about their needs, and they're putting it out in a very assertive manner. Another very important characteristic of a resilient person is that they keep good company. They will surround themselves with people who will help them grow. Who will help them grow personally as well as professionally. They will have people around them who will respect their boundaries, who will respect their individuality, who will respect their work, who will respect who they are as a person. And at the same time, they will motivate them. They will help them grow as a person. Resilient person, somebody who's resilient, is very high on self-awareness. So they are aware of their emotions, they're aware of their thoughts, they're aware of their value system, they're aware of their morals, they're aware about their entire belief system. And they build this self-awareness over years. So self-awareness is not something that you build in one single day. Self-awareness is something that you build over a period of time. And this is often built by taking feedback from people, by taking constructive feedback from people, by reflecting, by introspecting on our lives on a daily basis. Resilient people practice acceptance. So whenever there's an adverse situation, they will accept it. They will not be in a denial. They will not try to ignore it. They will not try to minimize it. They will not run away from it. Instead, they will accept it and deal with it objectively and rationally. Resilient people follow a routine, and in their routine, they follow self care practices. So they have a routine, they formulate a routine. Why routine is important? Because it adds a structure to your day. You know what you have to achieve in the day and what task you need to do in a day. So your day, you don't have to spend hours and hours thinking, "Ki, what do I do now? What do I do at this hour? What do I do at that hour?" When you have a pre-existing structure, you are able to, and it also frees a lot of headspace. So having structure, one saves you a lot of time, it saves you energy. At the same time, it saves you a lot of headspace. So they follow a routine and they also practice healthy self-care habits. They will engage in activities that promote their self-care, self-confidence, self-esteem, and a sense of self. They will focus on their physical well-being, their mental well-being, their emotional well-being, their social well-being, their spiritual well-being, as well as their professional well-being. They will engage in activities that promote all of this. They remain calm during stressful situations. So they do not let their emotions interfere with their decision making ability, or they do not let their emotions blur their outlook towards the situation. They are able to control their emotions. They are able to manage their emotions during a stressful situation. At the same time, they're very optimistic. They see half glass full. They will never see the situation from a pessimistic perspective. They will never see a half glass empty. They'll always find a silver lining in the problem. They will always find the silver lining in the situation. So these are some of the characteristics of a resilient person. So yeah, I'll move to the next slide, which is who benefits from building resilience. So, who should go in for resilience training? To be honest, everybody who wants to improve their life, who wants to work on their well-being, who wants to have a stable, happy, peaceful life should go for resilience training. But there are specific groups of people who require this more than others. So people who want to improve their functioning at home, at work, in relationships should go for resilience training. At the same time, people who are dealing with a stressor or who have recently recovered from a stressful situation need to undergo resilience training. They need to spend some time on building resilience. If somebody has moved beyond recovery, they've recovered from a stressful situation, they recovered from a trauma, and now they wish to thrive, they can also go for resilience training. People who have survived crisis situations or overwhelming stressors like terrorism, trauma, loss of relationship, death in the family, abuse in war, and so on, they also require resilience training. So these are some of the groups that will benefit exponentially from building resilience. And resilience training is not something which is like a formal setup, like a course that you sign up for. It is when I say resilience training, I mean working on yourself, identifying skills that will help you become resilient. If you want, you can do it by yourself. If you want, you can sign up for courses. If you want, you can seek therapy or supervision or mentoring or coaching, and all of these professionals can guide you to become more and more resilient. So these are some of the people, some of the groups that benefit more from building resilience. But in my honest opinion, everybody should work on building resilience. Everybody should spend some time on a daily basis to learn new skills that will help them cope with the crisis. Healthy coping, you should learn healthy coping mechanisms. Okay, so before we move to the next slide, which is identifying certain hacks to build resilience, what are some of the issues that cause stress at workplace? What are some of the issues that will result in you experiencing stressor? What are some of the common workplace stressors? All of us have work. All of us go to either college or work or stay at home. What are some of the stressors that you experience? What causes you stress? You can put it in the chat and somebody can read
Excuse
it.
me. May I?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, on work, as we are now, everyone is working from home. So, the more stress that I feel that every day the work priority change, and if you have planned something for the next day, and all of a sudden some other commitment comes in a priority basis, so again we have to reschedule the whole plan which we are mindset is already done, we have done in our mindset. So that makes, at least for me, it's a more stressful. So how to go about it, how to replan, rework, and achieve our target or achieve our goal on for that day. Uh, so that's
Right.
yes.
So for you, uncertainty or unexpected events result in experiencing stress.
Yes.
Right. So one of the best way to deal with uncertainty is having a flexible routine. So if you are experiencing, if an unwanted meeting comes in, or if an unwanted task comes in, you can always have buffers in your routine which can help you deal with a task or complete task during the same day. So we'll talk about it in the. Just remind me, we'll talk about it in the Q&A part. What else causes you stress at work, at home, in relationships?
Yeah. Miss Nisha
Sometimes
wanted to.
our nature and sometimes our own principles doesn't match with our superiors. So
Right.
sometimes it's like we feel that is bad or unethical that we have to do, but due to the
Right.
our scenarios like in medical profession, the senior junior ethical principle also comes in between. So that
Right.
becomes very much chaos situation sometimes, and that hampers our
Right, right, right. A lot of whenever there's an ethical dilemma or conflict, that is one of the major stressors in my case too.
yeah
What
right yes
I do is if I'm experiencing ethical dilemma with somebody else or when there's an ethical conflict with somebody else, I usually have an open communication. So I sit with the other person and we have an open communication about what is bothering me, what is bothering them, and what can be the common ground. Because we cannot keep conflicting forever. We will have to come up with a common ground. The sooner we do it, the better it will be for us. So yes, that is another very common conflict that people experience
Yeah.
is ethical issues, ethical conflicts between seniors and juniors, within colleagues, with family members, with peers, in relationships. What else do you think
Yeah, Miss
can
Nisha has raised her hand. So, Miss Nisha, you can ask.
yeah uh, audible.
you can just unmute. You don't have to raise your hand or anything. Just unmute and speak up.
Okay, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So one thing is like people working from home are saying that unstructured rhythm, but even when we are working on the ground right now, like I'm working with a college, so they've started reopening, and at a phase even with the lack of structure, so to say, because every new day, the new thing coming in, and at the same time, right now when we have students in the campus, like slowly, gradually, we are opening up.
Right.
So the chaos which is building up with we are going to hybrid situation which is like online as well as offline because few of them are there and
Right.
few of them are here. So tackling those things on the ground is something which is really really
Right.
like now that we
Right. So whenever there's a major change in events, whenever an organization is changing its methodologies, its structure, its culture, there will be a lot of stress. That is where the change management comes in. That is where you require more and more supervision and mentoring from maybe outsiders or in-house to help you deal with that change, because change is a huge stressor for everybody. We're comfortable with certain thing, and one day we know that the comfort zone no longer exists. There can be a slower transition, a slow step by step transition, but in majority of the time it is a sudden change that happens. Didn't all of you experience stress when you were initially told, oh my god, you will have to operate virtually or you'll have to use Zoom throughout the day? Didn't we struggle with figuring out Zoom? Didn't we struggle with figuring out Hangouts or Google Meet for that matter? Didn't we struggle with getting out of the bed because there was a pandemic going on already? There was so much happening, and there was so much uncertainty, so much fear. There was fear of losing job, fear of the disease, and so on. And on top of that, you had to adapt to this new workplace. You had to adapt to this new change. Didn't that result in you experiencing a lot of stress? And stress is a very, I mean, it's not even stress. I mean, uh, you cannot even define that entire situation by just using the word stress. Stress is just minimizing the entire. It was way beyond a stressful situation. It is something that none of us were prepared for. and suddenly one day everything shuts down. So, and you should be proud of yourself for the fact that you were able to stay afloat during the pandemic. So, if you've dealt with the pandemic, if you've come out of it, and you're still here attending this webinar, you are already resilient. You've already dealt with the issue. It was a major thing. It was a huge thing, and God forbid something of this should never happen again in the future. So you should pat your back for being resilient, for being able to stay afloat, for bouncing forward, and and taking on the task. So yeah, all of you are resilient. That is why we are sitting here and having this discussion. All right. So any last one point before I move to the hacks?
I think Stacey Ann has also raised her hand.
Yeah, go on.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. But I think one reason that could cause stress to the workplace or at the workplace if the directions given or the job descriptions wasn't given clear to the subordinates, something like that.
Right. When there's no clarity of what you need to do. So this reminds me of a project I was part of. So I was hired to work as a public health consultant in a very reputed international organization, and there was no clarity of instructions. They hired me, everything was sorted, but nobody told me what I have to do. And I ended up spending 1 month just reaching out to different members and asking them what exactly is my job. So that had resulted in me experiencing a lot of stress. I was like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I haven't received any instructions. I haven't received any kind of orientation. I don't know what to do. Why am I even part of this project? But eventually, I was able to navigate after sitting with a few people, holding them down. "Ki, you need to tell me what I need to do, or at least clarify what my role here is." So this happens a lot when there are no clear instructions. All right. So, just being mindful of the time, we'll move to the second part, which is building resilience, tips, techniques, and hacks. So, the first one is a generalized slide. This is a very generalized way. And then we look at individual activity, individual technique that we can use. So, one of the best way to work to boost resilience at work is practicing mindfulness. So when we say mindfulness, we mean being in the here and now. So there is a stressor, there is a lot of happening, but you try to focus your attention on the here and now, which is the present. So there is a stressor, but you try to bring your attention back to work. There's a lot of things there are a lot of things happening at home. Maybe you had a fight with your spouse, maybe you had a fight with your partner, maybe you had an argument with somebody, and as a result of it, you're already stressed. And that stress, you take that stress into your workplace. So when you're focusing on work, that stress is constantly bothering you. When you practice mindfulness, you bring your attention back to the work from that stressful situation. So exercising mindfulness is very important. One of the easiest way to practice mindfulness is engaging in relaxed breathing. So we'll be looking at breathing later. So I'll talk about breathing when we move to that slide. Another very common but a very difficult way to practice mindfulness is meditation. A lot of people find it extremely difficult to meditate. It appears to be very simple, but it is very difficult to bring your focus on your body, on your breathing. Again, depending on the type of meditation, on yourself when you're meditating, because we're so engrossed in the issue, we're so involved with the stressful situation that we often find it difficult to focus on a simple task. So practicing mindfulness will help you bring back your focus on the here and now. Will help you bring back the focus on the task at hand. Another very important tool is related to routine, which is coming up with, so inspired from the urgent priority matrix, is compartmentalize your cognitive load. So during the day, we are assigned a lot of tasks. We are assigned, say, responding to emails, structuring, planning this, maybe creating content. So, say for example, in my case, I have to create content, I have to post on social medias, I have to deal with clients, I have to conduct workshops, and so on. And all of this together, when I think about it in together, it can become very overwhelming for me. So one thing that I have adapted is I compartmentalize my tasks. So I group similar tasks. Say for example, if I have to post stories or post on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all of that together. So I group that task into one compartment. At the same time, if I have to conduct coaching and therapy clients, I group that task into another compartment. Then, if I have to do research, that is another task, another compartment. If I have to focus on marketing and leads and all of that, that is another task. So I split my task into multiple compartments, grouping them on the basis of their similarities, and then I have assigned different time slots for each task. So, say for example, for social media posting, I have assigned morning hours. At the same time, for therapy and coaching clients, I have assigned my afternoon hour. For research, I have assigned midnight. For marketing and lead generation, I have assigned midday. So these are some. This is some of the way. This is one of the ways in which I compartmentalize my task. So no task is overwhelming. I can focus on all the tasks during my day, and there is no what do you call it? There's no overlapping of. Sorry, there's no over. I don't. I'm at loss of words. So I'm not able to neglect any of the tasks. I mean, instead, I'm able to focus on each of the tasks when I compartmentalize it. So you have a lot of tasks to do. You group them on the basis of similarity. You assign certain time slots to those compartments, and then you go ahead doing those tasks. Another very important way to build resilience, to boost resilience at work, is you take self-care breaks. So a lot of us are in the 9 to 5 job. A lot of us work from 9 to 9 in the night. A lot of us have extra side hustles and so on. What we forget when we're working so much is we forget to give ourselves a break. And as a result of it, we experience burnout. We experience a lot of stress. We experience a lot of mental health issues, as well as physical health issues for that matter. So make sure you're giving yourself a self-care break. And a self-care break will include self-care activities. Self-care activities can include a physical activities such as going for a walk, going for a run, um, taking a nap, and so on. A mental health activity can be like journaling, writing gratitude journal, focusing on yourself, introspection, a lot of self-reflection, um, dealing with your issues, going for therapy, going for supervision. Spiritual well-being could be going to a temple, going to a church, meditating for a few hours, practicing yoga, focusing on chakra healing. I mean, I don't promote all of that, but if it benefits the client, anything that benefits the client, they should engage in. Anything that benefits you, you should engage in. Anything that can help you boost your self esteem, you should engage in. Another way to boost resilience is cultivate self compassion. So, whenever there's a stressful situation, we are very harsh to ourselves. We find ourselves criticizing ourselves, isn't it? Doesn't that happen when you're in a stressful situation? You end up blaming yourself, you criticizing yourself like anything. And as a result of it, you add more stressors in your life. As a result of it, your self esteem decreases, your self confidence, your confidence in your own ability decreases. And it makes it more difficult for you to stay afloat, to deal with the task rationally and objectively. So, when you cultivate compassion, self compassion, you are able to boost your self esteem and self confidence, and you're able to stay clear headed when it comes to dealing with the task. So you need to cultivate compassion for yourself as well as others. One of the way to do that is engaging in self-care. When you're taking care of yourself, you are also cultivating self-compassion. So these are some of the ways in which you can boost resilience. So we'll quickly look at what happens when we are in a difficult situation and what can we do instead of doing those activities. So again, this was developed by one of the psychologists, and I forgot who developed this. I forgot the person's name, but this activity is called Four Horsemen and Their Antidote. So all of us have these four horsemen, and whenever we are in a stressful situation, we use any of these four horsemen. It can be criticism, it can be defensiveness, it can be contempt, it can be stonewalling. So think about it. Think about a stressful situation. What is your go-to horseman? So in my case, it is usually criticism, which is more focused on self-criticism, and stonewalling. In one of my clients, again, because I've taken consent from them to share the story, that client becomes very angry. The client experiences a lot of anger and frustration when they're in a stressful situation. And as a result, the client starts yelling and shouting at other people. So we move from content to share fondness and aspiration. So if you experience criticism, if you engage in a lot of criticism, your antidote to it is that you calm yourself down first and you focus on the problem and not on the person. You focus on the problem. When you calm yourself down, you discuss only when you're calm. You first calm yourself down. You engage in relaxation techniques. You calm yourself down. You engage in grounding techniques, and after that, when you're calm enough to have an objective, rational discussion, you have a discussion with the other person. You use warm body language, you use a warm tone of voice, and you also use I statements. When we use I statements, we are being assertive. So when you say I feel frustrated, you're taking responsibility on yourself, and at the same time, using I statements, you can express your needs to the other person. So if you engage in criticism, your job is to move to gentle start. If you engage in defensiveness, if you make excuses for your behavior, if you blame other people, your job is to first start owning up. Start taking responsibility for your actions. Second thing that you can do is if somebody is giving you a feedback, avoid taking that feedback personally. Avoid taking that feedback to your heart. See that feedback objectively and do not relate it to your identity. At times we end up doing that. We end up making this mistake that if somebody is telling you that you did not do this task well, we often perceive it as that I am not good enough for this task. So I relate that feedback with my identity. This is something which you need to change consciously. You need to stop yourself from doing. Also use feedbacks as an opportunity to improve. So if somebody is giving you a constructive feedback, you use that as an opportunity to work on yourself, to work and to grow as a person and as a professional. If you've blamed other people, it is okay to apologize. It is okay to ask for forgiveness. If you experience contempt, if you experience anger, if you experience hostility towards other people, and you end up shouting, yelling, putting other people down, try to act superior, and so on, your job is to move to share fondness and admiration. So you foster healthy relationship with the other person. If instead of shouting at them, you show affection. You tell them that you're proud of them. You tell them that they are doing a good job. You help them identify their strengths. If there are weaknesses, you help them improve upon their weaknesses. If you engage in stonewalling, your job is to move to self-soothing. So use relaxation activities, use deep breathing techniques, agree to pause the conversation briefly. So, say for example, you are having a conversation with your colleague, and you know you'll end up distancing yourself emotionally. So you inform your colleague that, hey, I'm not feeling okay. We'll have this conversation later. So you pause from that conversation for some time till the time you don't feel okay. You take your space, and there is no harm in taking your space. So these are the four horsemen that we deal with whenever we are going through a stressful situation. All of us might be experiencing either one of them, or at times all four of them. And these are some of the antidotes that you can use. Another technique to deal with, to become, that will help you become resilient, is stop. So whenever there's a stressful situation, our emotions play a major role. We get so emotional about things. We start experiencing a lot of negative emotions, and as a result of those negative emotions, we experience those negative emotions end up impacting our decision making ability, and we end up taking impulsive, hasty decisions which we may regret later, which may have a consequence that we are not ready for. So STOP is an acronym that helps you deal with that. So if you find yourself in a stressful situation and you know you have to take a decision, you stop. You stop, you freeze there, you do not move a muscle, and you try to just control your emotions. So your entire energy is you're focusing your entire energy on just controlling emotions. Once you stop, once you freeze, you step back from the situation. So, say for example, you're having an argument with your friend, with your colleague in one room. You get up, you leave that room and move to another space. So, you take a step back from the situation, you take a break. At the same time, you engage in deep breathing. You do not, and you also focus on controlling your emotions. So, you stop, you take a step back. Next thing you do is you observe what is happening. You observe the situation. What is the situation? When you've stepped back, when you've relaxed relatively, you can now start thinking about the situation. You identify what is happening, what is triggering you, what is causing a lot of stress. What are your thoughts? What are you feeling? What are others doing? What are others saying in the situation? So just focus on all of this. Just make sense of all of this. Once you have made sense of all of this, and once you've understood the situation in an objective, rational manner, you act with awareness. You proceed mindfully. So you consider your thoughts and feelings and other person's thoughts and feelings before taking a decision. So ask yourself: will my action makes things worse or better? What will be the consequences of my actions? Am I ready to face those consequences? If not, how do I change my actions? So whenever there's a difficult situation, you stop yourself from taking a decision. And how do we do that? Is you stop, you take a step back, you observe yourself, and then you proceed mindfully with awareness. So this is the STOP acronym, a very simple acronym, but at the same time a very powerful thing to do. Just practice this once and you'll see the results. So next time, whenever you're feeling a lot of anger or frustration or experience a lot of negative emotions, just practice stop. If you want, you can take a quick screenshot of the slide. So just stop when you feel very emotional next time and you know you'll end up taking a wrong or an impulsive decision. Another very useful tool is maintaining an emotional diary. So one of the things that gets influenced whenever there's a stressor, whenever there's an adverse situation, is your emotions. So emotions, they exist for a reason. Our emotions tell us about our internal state, what is happening within us. And there are four primary emotions. There is sad, mad, glad, and scared. So these four emotions form the basis, and then there are extensions. And then there are secondary emotions, and there are tertiary emotions, and so on. So, sad, mad, glad, scared, these are the four primary emotions that all of us experience. We experience sadness when there is a loss, when there is a loss of something or a relationship or loss of an object. And we experience anger or mad when there is an injustice happening and we feel that things are not going right. We experience glad or happiness when things are going really well, when we feel very positive about certain situation. Scared is when there is uncertainty, when we don't know what is happening, what to expect next. And that is when we experience scare, a fear, but that is when we are scared. So these are the primary emotions, and this is just a template of emotion diary. So this helps you identify, one, what is your emotional state. Second, how your emotions are helping you with your goals. What are you achieving when you're experiencing that emotion? Third thing is what your emotions are trying to tell you. We experience emotions because they're trying to tell us something. And what are they trying to communicate to other people? So this is a template. You can find a lot of templates online if you just type emotion diaries or emotional regulation sheets and so on. This is just one template. I'll show you the filled one also, an example. So this is a filled example. So if a person is experiencing fear, which is they're scared, the goal that they're achieving is not going to a training group. How was this emotion? What is it informing other people that the group is not important? And I decided not to go to the group. What is that fear communicating to me? That the group may not be safe. So you can always look for evidence. You can always look for impact of emotions on others and at yourself. So when you maintain emotion diary, you learn a great deal about yourself, about your emotional state, and once you're aware of your emotional state, you can easily change it. So if you're experiencing a lot of negative emotions and the evidence says otherwise, your evidence says ki, okay, I'm just overthinking, or I'm just experiencing because I am not seeing this situation in a very positive way, you can always challenge your thought, which will result in you changing your emotion. So emotion diary helps you become more and more about yourself, and the impact that your emotions have on you and other people. Relaxation techniques, deep breathing. So about relaxed breathing. Relaxed breathing. So whenever there's a stressful situation, the first thing that is impacted is our breathing. Our breathing speeds up, and in order to get our body ready for the danger. So relaxed breathing is basically abdominal breathing. We breathe from our abdomen, and whenever we engage in abdominal breathing, it is a signal to our body to feel safe, to feel relaxed. It is relatively slower and deeper than normal breathing, and it usually, like I mentioned, happens in the happens in the abdomen. Um, so, how do we engage in relaxed breathing? We can do a quick exercise right now. You can close your eyes, just close your eyes. Sit wherever you're sitting, just close your eyes and sit comfortably. Um, Try to breathe slowly through your nose than through your mouth. So, just breathe in slowly, take a deeper breath, and count till four or count till eight, whatever you are comfortable with. Pause there for a moment. Once you've breath you once you breathe in, you pause there for a moment, and then you slowly breathe out through your mouth. So you breathe in through your nose, you take a deep breath through your nose, you pause there for a moment, and you breathe out through the mouth. And you repeat it over and over again. You repeat it a couple of times. It could be 5 times, 7 times, even 10 times. Again, depending from on what works for you. Another very useful, very helpful breathing technique is square breathing. So you breathe in at four counts. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4. You breathe in. You pause there for four counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. You breathe out for four counts, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and again you breathe in. So you breathe for four counts. You stay there for four counts, and then you breathe out, and then you repeat. This is another very helpful breathing technique. Another very helpful breathing technique is 4-7-8 breathing. So you breathe in through your nose for four counts, you pause for 7 counts, and you exhale through your mouth for 8 counts. So these are some of the techniques that you can use. Along with this, you can also practice pranayam. You can also practice just simple deep breathing, for that matter. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the energy, just sit in your place, close your eyes, and focus on inhaling and exhaling. Another very useful relaxation technique is Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation. I'm sorry we're running out of time, so I will not be able to go through the script. But I'll share a YouTube video which all of you can do at home. Also, Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation is something which should be done when you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, when you're not able to calm yourself down, and when you're not able to sleep properly. So, Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation helps you sleep. If you find it difficult to sleep in the night, just play the video, listen to the instructions, follow the instructions, and switch off your phone after that, or put your phone on silent after that, and you no longer use the device. Your body starts feeling relaxed, your body starts feeling heavy. So, Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation is very useful technique. So, these are some of the relaxation techniques that you can use. Another thing, we'll spend 5 minutes on building our self care plan. So, all of you have your pens and papers ready, right? Do you have a pen and paper? Can everybody show a thumbs up? Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Yes, yes, beautiful and we are
All right. So, we'll spend another Great, great. For a moment, I thought that I got dropped off the call. Because I didn't hear anybody speak and I just went on speaking without giving an opportunity to speak to anybody. So, building a self care plan, one of the
Building a
first
self
step in
care
building the
plan.
self
One
care
of the
plan
first
is you determine. So the first step that you need to do in building a self care plan is you determine your stress level. What is your current stress level? So out of 10, if you have to rate your stress level, where do you stand? So have you noted down your current stress level? All right. The next step is you identify your stressors. So if your stress level is say 4 on 10, what is causing that stress? What is your stressor? I forgot to attach the list in this slide, but what is causing stress to you right now? Just think about it. This will require a lot of reflection, a lot of time thinking. But since we're running short on time, just figure out one or two stresses that you're experiencing. I hope all of you have written down one stressor at least. The next step that includes is how do you typically cope with stress? What do you do to deal with that stress? What is your go to activity to deal with that stress? So, say for example, in my case, my go to activity to deal with that stress is taking a nap. I sleep for a few hours and I'm in a much better headspace. So, what do you do to deal with that stress? I'll send you a template. I'll email this template to all of you if you want. There's a proper PDF with this self care plan. I've picked up pointers from it. Um, how do you deal with stress? What is that one activity or a couple of activities that you engage in? Another very important aspect which you can do as a homework is you can reflect on your values and you can see what values you can use in your self care plan. What values and worldviews impact your self care. So this will require a lot of reflection, which you can do as a homework. The next step is you make a commitment to self care. So you fix a time in your day, in your routine, when you will engage in self care. So usually in my case, I put an alarm on my phone, say from 6:30 to 7:30, and I put self care as the label. So whenever that alarm rings, I know that is my cue to engaging in self care activity. So this is how you make a commitment. So these are some of the things you need to do when you are building your self care plan. You need to identify your stress level. You need to identify your stressors. You need to identify things that you have been doing to cope with stresses. Along with that, activities that can help you relax. It can be anything, and anything that can help you relax. And then you make a commitment to it. You can commit to the task by putting an alarm, putting it in your calendar, reminding, being accountable to somebody. So a lot of people, what they do is they share their self care plans with a confidant, so that they are accountable to the confidant when it comes to engaging in self care. So you can do this. How do you make commitment to the self care? And I'll also send you a PDF. And I think this was the last slide. Now we can have quick questions, and I'll also stop sharing my screen. How do I stop sharing my screen? And we can quickly take questions now. It's already 6. I'm sorry for running out of time.
No problem. I think the participants can either unmute and ask the questions or put it in the chat box and I can read them out for ma'am.
Yeah, I can read the chat now as well. So
No problem.
anybody,
May I ask question?
yeah.
May I
Just
ask
go.
question? Ma'am, I would
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
say
go.
very nice and insightful session, ma'am. I have one
Thank you.
question. Ma'am, how to stop
Thank you.
overthinking? Just want to know about that.
So, overthinking is a lot is another session, but I'll give you a quick tip. So one thing you need to start doing when it comes to overthinking is so what are you overthinking about? What is that common thought? So to start with, you start making a journal. You start making a thoughts journal. So what happens in thought journal is that at the end of the day, you sit down and you reflect and you write down what thoughts you had, and you maintain this journal for a period of time, and you identify your recurring thoughts. You identify your negative, unhelpful thoughts, and once you know, okay, once you're aware, okay, this is what my negative thought is, you can challenge it. You can change it. How do we change it is one of the ways. Okay, so say for example, one of the way to challenge the thought is you imagine that your friend is in the same situation. What would you advise your friend? So will you give the same advice that you're giving yourself, or will you give a separate advice? So do what you are telling your friend. Another way to challenge that thought is that you imagine the worst possible scenario. Because whenever we are overthinking, we imagine the worst possible scenario. What is the worst thing that can happen? Once you've imagined that, ask yourself, will I be able to cope with it? And once you've asked that, once you've reflected on that, you ask yourself, will I be okay eventually? So once you do this, these are very insightful activities, which require time, which require peace. But when you do it, you learn a great deal of things about yourself. And once you've challenged the thought, you keep challenging it over and over again, till the time you have changed it, and keep reinforcing that thought by maybe engaging in rewarding, or by rewarding yourself. Rewarding is one of the best reinforcement techniques. Anything else? Any other?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, we have a question in the chat box. How to
Imposter.
overcome imposter syndrome?
Is it okay if I do not answer that question? I can send you an email. You can reach out to me via email, but that will take a great deal of time. You can send me an email regarding it. I'll put in my contact details.
Sure.
Is it
Thank you.
okay for you
That's
to
okay.
reach out to me via email? I hope that's okay.
Yeah, she said okay. Yeah.
Because imposter syndrome, there's no one unique way of dealing with imposter syndrome. Everybody has different ways of experiencing. So we need to understand in depth as to what is happening. And once you've had an understanding, only then we'll be able to deal with it. So there is no one generalized answer as to dealing with imposter syndrome. We need to know what exactly is happening. So if you could send me the case, I'll go through it and I'll get back to you via email. So I'm putting in my email IDs and my other account details. You can always reach out to me there. Anybody else who would like to say something?
Very much, Bhumika ji. It was a insightful session. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
And I'm glad all of you learned something from it. I would really appreciate if you could give me a feedback or anything via email or through social media.
Yeah, I'll also be putting a feedback link in the chat box, and participants can also mention there. Ms. Jasmine has also raised her hand. She had a question.
Yeah, go on.
Hi, thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much for the session. I wanted to know one concern that I have faced in the past is if your colleagues or your boss don't respect your boundaries, the boundaries that you have set in the workplace, what can you do about that?
So, have you had an open, honest communication with your colleagues and with your boss regarding boundaries?
So yes, for example, if a lot of people would call me after working hours, even though I've told them if it's not an emergency or if it's not urgent, we can deal with it the next day. But that was still not, that boundary was still not respected. So I'm wondering what someone can do
Right.
after setting the boundary and after having that open communication as well.
Right. So, a very simple solution to it is you keep reinforcing it. Because in India, people are not trained to respect boundaries. A lot of people do not understand the concept of boundaries. And same happens at the workplace. So, whenever you are setting boundaries, you make sure that you reinforce them. if people are still not respecting it, you become very strict about it. You clearly tell them that I will no longer be responding to your calls no matter what. So first try reinforcement, that you keep on having that conversation with your teammates, with your boss over and over again. So does this answer your question?
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. I was supposed to share the YouTube link. I've also shared my LinkedIn and my Instagram ID. If you want, you can reach out to me there along with. I'll just quickly put in the JPMR relaxation technique video, which you can use.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the participants, you can click on the feedback form that we have posted and provide us with feedback. Also, please note down Ms. Devika's contact details. You can definitely, as she mentioned, reach out to her for any further queries.
Also, I'm running a workshop on resilience on 23rd. So that will be a more in-depth kind of a thing. If you want to join, you can always reach out. And somebody asked about how about having fraudulent and corrupt leadership in the education sector that are victimizing. Please don't get me started on this. I will not be able to stop. So it's about issue of morals, values, and belief systems. So, and it will require a collective effort to change all of this. So we cannot just target one person. This is something which will require collectivistic effort and targeting the issue from the top level to the grassroots.
True. Yes.
Ma'am, what is building resilience toolkit?
Building resilience toolkit. So basically learning techniques. I don't want to call it resilience training and all of that because that makes it very technical. So I use the building resilience toolkit.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Devika, for coming with us and conducting such an insightful session. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining in and asking your queries. Hope you also had a good learning experience. All right. See you all soon with Rishti's next webinar.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can you send the YouTube link again, please?
Sorry,
Aditya
Vaishali.
ma'am, can you send the YouTube link again? Can you send the YouTube link
Sure.
again, please?
Sure.
I just got rid of it.
Sure, ma'am.